You know, we've all got that happy place, don't we? You don't have a care in the world, no aches or pains, and for that moment, you don't worry about what's going on in your world. There's a place that can take you there, your own personal happy place. You're welcome, Massage Therapy. You walk right in and let Laura take you to your own personal happy place. You're welcome, Massage Therapy at 113 Ridner Lane in Jacksboro. 423-377-1124. This is David Grimm reporting for Watch It To You News. Something big is happening at the local on Jacksboro Pike. Sharon, what's going on down there?
Yes, David, there's families down here actually enjoying home-cooked meals together. They're receiving fast and friendly service at affordable prices. Now back to you, David.
So there you have it, folks. That's the latest from the local on Jacksboro Pike. This has been David Grimm reporting for Watch It To You News.
Be smart, style smarter. I go to Style Smarter.
Good evening. I want to welcome you to JCTV. And with us tonight as our guest is Melanie Cordell, and she's the CEO for the Tennessee
Valley Coalition for the Homeless.
Okay, Tennessee Valley Coalition for the Homeless. That's a mouthful for me. But we want to welcome Melanie because she is the person that is heading up the homeless shelter here for Campbell County. Melanie, just briefly, if you can remember numbers or dates or anything like that, when did they decide to do a homeless shelter in Campbell County?
We decided on January the 1st to do a homeless shelter. We titled it Warming Center, and that was because it was about 7 degrees outside. And I contacted Mayor Stanfield, gave him a call, and I said, hey, listen, it is really cold. Is there anything that we can do? And he said, you know, buddy, I really think that we can. He said, give me just a minute and I'll call you right back. And he contacted Johnny Burge and said, is the old Westlaw School available? And he called me back and he said, guess what? We've got it. And within 3 hours, we had the entire community invested and brought in tons of donations and food. And we had a warming center at 5 p.m. that night.
That's great. And, you know, we really needed it at that time. There's been cases when we needed it before. And it would have been great if we had had it. But I'm so thankful now that we do have a place, you know, to help people
Yes.
out in those types of situations when the weather is so bad and they have no place to go. And, you know, a lot of people may not, you know, think, well, you know, it's our community, but, you know, I don't want to get involved or whatever. But people need a helping hand at different times in their lives for various reasons.
Yeah, and I always think about it as, you know, this can happen to me, this can happen to my children, this can happen to my brother or sister at any given time. I mean, we're literally one paycheck away from becoming homeless. And that's just the reality of our world now. I mean, the grocery bills are getting more expensive. Our rent and mortgages are becoming more expensive. And, you know, our paychecks are not growing. You know, everything else is growing.
Right.
And, you know, not only that, but, you know, our diseases are becoming more prevalent. Cancer is becoming more prevalent. And the medical bills are rising, which, you know, takes a toll on, you know, our finances. And so, you know, homelessness is not just about those who have substance abuse issues or mental health. You know, it involves so many other aspects of your walk of life. And so a lot of the individuals that we have worked with over these past couple of months, you know, aren't addicted to drugs and alcohol. You know, they have become homeless because they lost their job or because of medical issues. And so, you know, I just wanted to really stress the importance of, you know, this really can just happen to anybody, and you know, it can happen at any time and to anyone. So it's just really important. We had an individual that was 18 years old. He aged out of the foster care system and he became homeless, as soon as he turned 18. So, that was of no fault of his own. He wasn't on drugs or alcohol. He just turned 18 and he had to leave his home. So, it just really it can happen in
Right. In those situations, sometimes we fail to see past what our minds are telling us sometimes, or what we want to classify people as.
Sure.
To see that, there are people that are in situations through no fault of their own, or because of a situation that they could not control. I would rather somebody, be homeless than to be in a situation where they're abused.
Right, absolutely.
Absolutely. So sometimes we don't know, or don't, like I said, look past what we think and realize that there are cases of homelessness that, through no fault of their own, that's the situation that they're in. Who is basically in Campbell County, besides yourself being the CEO, who is the major players in this at this time?
Yeah, so before I answer that, let me give you just a little bit of history. We started on January the 1st, and we were able to stay at the school for about 2 weeks. And then from there, the school was rented out, and so we weren't able to stay here. So we asked the community, do you really feel that the shelter is needed here in this community? And we did some surveys, and we asked all the churches, and everybody was just like, yes, we've got to have this. The winter months are not over. This is really important. And so J.R. Kitt said, hey, we'll give you the party place for an entire month, and you can use this facility. So we moved from the school down to the party place and stayed there for an entire month and served so many people. And from there, churches were coming every single day and providing meals to help support, the shelter. And then we had volunteers that were there 24 hours a day, supporting. And then we created an advisory council at that point and said, I really think that this is going to be something that we need to start thinking about more long term, because the community really was active in the participation of this. Not only that, but the growth of the homeless population, the growth of the beds in the shelter were continuing to grow. The community didn't realize there really is a homeless problem in our community, and so we really were taking a look at, is this, do we really not know that we had a problem, or are we actually realizing it because we have beds now that we can put people in?
Right.
And so an advisory council was created, and now we have a board of directors that is overseeing the shelter and making policies and procedures for the future permanent shelter that we'll be talking about in a minute. So we have Brandon Elkins with the TBI, but he's here, as a citizen.
Right.
We've got Pastor Alan Shepard, Pastor Chris Thomas, Bethany Fritz, and Otis Monday, and they're all active board members. And Zach Walden as an attorney. They're all on the board and board members.
Okay. Well, that kind of gives you a little bit of idea then about who is involved locally. And the information that you see on the screen is contact information that you can get in touch with anyone at any time about the homeless shelter itself. And I want to say this too. I know that y'all will be accepting, of course, monetary donations. If somebody wants to get involved with the shelter and volunteer or donate items for when the shelter gets established, who do they get in touch with right now? Who's the best person to contact?
Probably Pastor Chris Thomas at New Horizons Baptist Church, or myself. They can contact either one of us. The board collectively is looking at land or a building. We not only want to provide a homeless shelter, but we're looking at permanent housing to build affordable housing. So it's a pretty big vision that we want to establish in the community for this population. And it's really important to do workforce development and partner with other agencies that are already providing supportive services for this population. So I would recommend if for those that can help us out, especially financially as we are in transition with the Warming Center, to contact Pastor Chris and myself, and we can provide all of that contact information.
Okay. And of course, the contact information is on the screen. Long term, we're talking long term, a permanent dwelling for the homeless. And then you also mentioned additional housing. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
So what type of housing are you actually talking about?
So we actually are not terming this new facility a homeless shelter because we don't consider it a shelter. Individuals cannot stay longer than 30 days. I mean, we have seen 65 individuals come through the shelter in 3 months. So that's a lot of people. We've turned away 70 individuals because we didn't have the capacity, we didn't have enough beds to put them into the shelter. And the reason why we are wanting this to be a short-term stay for these individuals is because we have enough advocates and volunteers to help them reduce the barriers that they have to get into housing. And we are partnering with different employers to get them jobs immediately as soon as they come in. Now, some individuals do have addiction problems, and so we really want them to detox and to figure out, do you need to go to rehab? And we will make for sure that those individuals do go to rehab. Now, this is client choice and client will, and if they are not willing to go to rehab and they want to stay in the addiction that they're in, then the homeless shelter is really not meant for them, and we'll figure out a suitable place for them to go. As far as a long-term housing program, individuals who are needing immediate shelter, that's pretty crisis-based. We want to address all of the needs that they currently have and then move them on into stability, because that's exactly what they need. And we're looking at a community-type dwelling where individuals are moving into an area where they are able to have community and have church and have workforce components where they have developed skill sets where they can have permanent employment, have a community garden. And so we're really wanting to have a pretty large area, several acres, where all of this can take place. One of the things that we learned while these individuals were living in the shelter was when we moved them into permanent housing, when they, were ready to move into permanent housing, and they did move in, they came immediately back to the shelter because permanent housing was a new place for them. They've been living on the streets for so long, and they were in situations that were very unstable and very crisis-based, very unsafe. And so when you go into permanent housing, you're all alone, you're isolated, and you're scared because this is not a familiar place. And so they come back to the shelter to be back with this family that they have developed and these new friendships that are healthy and safe for them. And so they feel comfortable when they're in the shelter. And so we have determined, and we've looked at best practice models, is that if we create a safe place, a community that has smaller homes that are together in a couple of acres, that these individuals and families can support one another and be able to thrive together with counseling and mentoring, and that's the ideal place that we're looking at developing for this population.
Okay. All right. Well, y'all have got a lot of ideas and a lot of things going on then that you want to see take place in Campbell County. Fundraising, I'm going to touch on that for just a minute. I know that Fields of Praise is coming up in May, that they're going to be doing at the Mountain Heritage to raise funds for the shelter. Is there any other fundraising event that's coming up in the near future?
Yes, we are doing a roadblock in the city of La Follette on April the 21st, and you'll see some of the board members there standing out in the streets. So definitely stop by and give us your change. All of that is going to be going, 100% of the proceeds go to the building campaign. And so as we are building a new building, that's definitely what the proceeds will be going towards. On May The 21st, at La Follette Church of God, we are going to be doing a community yard sale. And so if you've got things you'd like to donate to be able to sell at this yard sale, please let us know, because we would love to take those belongings and be able to sell that. And please, everybody, stop by on that day as well. It's again at La Follette Church of God. And we're going to be doing a community yard sale on that day.
Okay. Well, you've got a lot of things going on then. So let's remember those dates, and of course they are on the screen. And I'm sure that they will have flyers and posters and be putting it in the press and on the radio and that kind of thing. Also, to remind everyone. Now, getting back to the dwelling, your long-term goal is to produce permanent housing. Right? Now, people that say they come to you through being homeless, then they transition into a housing, part of this housing community.
Yes.
Is this a permanent place for them, or is it a place where they get stable and get on their own, and then they move on and somebody else comes in and takes up residence?
It will be a permanent place for them.
So they will have a home permanently, as long as they want it, or?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
and is there any requirements for them as far as staying there, on the upkeep of their home, on, what are some of the guidelines that you have to,
Yeah, this will be just like a home like you and I have. So, there'll be yard work. There's going to be, making for sure that the outside of your home looks nice and neat. The inside of your home looks nice and neat. So everything that you do for your home, these individuals will be doing for their home.
right?
And their quality of life and daily living skills, it's going to be the exact same that they will have, just like you and I have.
Okay. Is there going to be like, like the Habitat for Humanity? They build homes in Campbell
Absolutely.
County for people, and that those people work toward.
what
they
they
take
do.
classes
Yes.
and they do the things to work toward getting their home. Is this kind of a similar situation?
It is, in the sense that they will be taking part in helping build the homes. Yes, but the only difference is that they're going to be continuing having supportive services with mentors and social workers on the property. There's going to be a community building there, providing resources, because you're going to find that there will be some individuals that need supportive services long term, that they really aren't able to stay in an apartment or a home without some additional assistance, and so that's what this is going to bring. Not only that, but they are going to need some community garden, fresh fruits and vegetables that they're not going to be able to afford on their own, and this atmosphere is going to be able to provide that.
Right. Okay, and I'm just using Habitat for Humanity for an example because I'm a little bit more familiar with their operations, but and they actually help the people that these homes go to apply for a loan that pays for the housing. Is this basically the same?
It's going to depend on their credit and where they're at in their journey. I think long term, if the board decides to structure each lot and sell those lots off, there might be a possibility to build their assets in that way. We haven't gotten to that point to decide if we're going to sell off those lots for these individuals. If so, we will partner with USDA to look into doing something like that. But I think for right now, the entire property will be in the nonprofit's name, and we will just rent out each of those units as rental homes.
Oh, okay. So there'll be basically a rental place and not an ownership.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Clarifying that.
Yes.
Because I was getting a little confused on that. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break and go to a commercial. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
Start Smarter.
This is David Grimm reporting for What's It To You News. Something big is happening at the local on Jacksboro Pike. Sharon, what's going on down there?
Yes, David, there's families down here actually enjoying home-cooked meals together. They're receiving fast and friendly service at affordable prices. Now back to you, David.
So there you have it, folks. That's the latest from the local on Jacksboro Pike. This has been David Grimm reporting for What's It To You News. You know, we've all got that happy place, don't we? You don't have a care in the world, no aches or pains, and for that moment, you don't worry about what's going on in your world. There's a place that can take you there, your own personal happy place. You're welcome, Massage Therapy. You walk right in and let Laura take you to your own personal happy place. You're welcome, Massage Therapy at 113 Ridner Lane in Jacksboro. 423-377-1124.
Welcome back, and with me, as I said earlier, is Melanie Cordell, and she is the CEO for the Tennessee Valley
Coalition for the Homeless. What a name.
I will get that one of these days. But anyway, Melanie is here telling us about the goals, the vision, and what they plan to do for the homeless shelter in Campbell County. We saw this past winter just how badly that we did need a place for people that were without housing. And we're hoping to see this not only strengthen our community, but also to give a helping hand to those in need when they need it. And homelessness is not just a isolated thing for one particular classification of people. Okay, it's not just for people that have a addiction problem, as you pointed out. It's not just for people that have joblessness in their life at that time, but it's for people that are maybe through no circumstance or situation that they've created that has caused them to be homeless. So we want, to stress that we need to get out of the mindset sometimes of people that are homeless and their situation, because it can be totally through no fault of their own. And I'm just getting a little tongue-tied on all that. But anyway, Melanie is here with us, so I want you just to kind of wrap it up and tell people what you're hoping to accomplish and the dates that you're hoping to get most of this done by, if you have a goal set in mind, and if you do have a property in mind already.
Okay. So by wrapping this up, I just really want to stress the importance of knowing that homeless individuals are individuals. They're human beings just like you and I. And once you reach out a warm hand, they're going to reach out a warm hand back to you, and they really just want love, just like you and I do. And things that I have learned from the Warming Center is that I truly am no different than any of those individuals that I have met with. You and I do things that are no different than anything that they have ever done. They just may look a little different today because they haven't had a bath, in a week, and they may smell a little different, but what will a good shower do for you? It'll clean you up, and I think that that's really the only difference. And I think that we just need to open up our heart a little bit. And I've seen that with this community over the last 3 months. It's just been absolutely amazing to see what the churches and the community has done for all of these individuals. We have seen, again, 61 individuals, or actually 63, I take that back, 63 individuals, and had to turn away 70 because we just haven't had enough room to serve everyone. And out of those individuals, 25 have gone into permanent housing and are still in permanent housing. 20 individuals have received employment, and several have gone into rehab across the state. So it's just because of the work you have done, because of all the volunteers and all of the churches. Renovation Health has provided health care for these individuals. You know, everybody has just come together, and it's really because of the community we have been able to keep this going. So on April the 27th, New Horizons Baptist Church, which is where the community warming shelter is currently located, will be transitioning the shelter, and we will be postponing the overnight beds and putting that on hold until we can find a piece of property to begin building a larger shelter to accommodate families and individuals. And we are looking at a piece of property with 6 acres at this time. It is located behind La Follette Housing Authority, and there is water and sewer on it for $25,000. We think it's a great price, and it is something that we're looking at doing. And so the importance of a capital campaign to help raise funds instead of going into debt is really important for us. So we are looking at those things, and we're looking at, with the board, writing some grants to help build the building, because there is a couple of grants that we can look into for that. So that is the current plan and goal. As far as a time frame, we haven't talked about that yet. We do know that the momentum of what we have experienced over the past 3 months is extremely important, and we want to keep that going because we are raising funds, and all of those dollars will be going 100% towards the shelter. We are still going to be doing we are still going to be doing homeless activities, while the overnight accommodations are going to be put on hold. And so we're going to be going out into the community and providing food and clothing and health care services and social work services during this time frame. So that will still be taking place, and we're hoping, you know, by summertime that we'll have land acquired and start, you know, building something. So that's the goal.
All right. Well, Melanie, we want to thank you for being with us on JCTV and taking the time to go over your plans for the homeless shelter. It's a great program if anyone wants to get involved in your church, your youth, your ladies' Bible school class, your men's Sunday school class, whatever, to do some outreach through that and to help raise money. And it would be a great ministry. And a great outreach ministry to get started into. So we want to thank you.
Thank you.
And tune in next week, because you never know who's going to be on the program. Thanks again.
Thanks.